Um, Hi guys, a long time. Haven't done a tutorial in a long time. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to try to show you guys how to dynamically resize the contents of a Windows Form application. So if you have your Windows Form application and you resize it, you'll notice that if you have buttons in them, the size of the buttons do not change. So let's just go ahead and create a new project. So I'll demonstrate what the problem we're going to try to solve. I remember in our previous tutorials where we created Smart Calc and who wants to be a Dacia app. In all those applications, we did not solve that problem. We only created the form, but we never handled it. So we're going to create a Windows Forms application. I'll just call it dynamic window. Um, let's call it dynamic button resize. Okay. Go ahead and click OK. That will create a new project for me. So just to demonstrate, I'll show you the difference. If you open your calculator, that's the one that comes with Windows. That's Windows calculator. Let me look for mine. Let me search for mine. Okay, here it is. Now this is what I'm saying. Notice if I decide, oh, okay. So for this calculator application, Windows designed it in such a way that you cannot resize it. Okay, that's fine. You can't resize it. However, if you notice, there are some applications of Windows whereby if you resize the window of this calculator, you notice that the buttons are going to enlarge themselves and resize to kind of conform to the new size of the calculator. Um, so this is what I'm saying. So we have a form. I'll just go ahead and put in some buttons in there. So let's put let me add one button. Let's add Control C, Control V to paste. Another button, Control V, another button, Control V, another button. So I have 4 buttons. Let's just go ahead and add one more. Let's add a text box at the top so it looks like our Smart Calc app. So yes, yeah, it does look like our Smart Calc app, though I think Smart Calc has a few more buttons. So suppose this is our application. Now notice what happens if I run this application. If I click on play to test run it, um, come on. Okay, so if I enlarge this window, notice how you see the window just enlarges and it leaves the buttons there on the left side. So the buttons do not change their size to, kind of conform to the size of the form. You understand? The same thing with the text box. So all the elements in the form, you see, if you minimize it, the same thing, it just stands there stagnant. So the sizes of the buttons do not change. Now this is what we're going to handle in this tutorial. So just to make things clear, the very first thing you're going to notice is that for these buttons, let's say buttons and a text box, okay, every single one of these items that you drop in a form is called a control. You can call it a control. Control is like the general class for these things. So a button is a control, a text box is a control, so everything here is a control. Now each control has 4 things that need to be changed whenever you want to change or make it to conform to the size of its parent window. The 4 things that need to be changed are: 1, under the size, it has a width and a height. You see, the width of the control needs to change. The height also needs to change. The other two things are the location, that's the X and Y components of the location of that control. So if you check, if you look for location under the properties window, okay, here is location. You have X component of the location and Y component of the location. So those are the four things: the X component of location, Y component of location, width and height of each control needs to change in order to conform to the new size of the new window. So well, the first thing, I think the next thing we need to do is, since we're going to make these things to change, that's the location of each control, you need to store the original locations, that's the X and Y of each button, and also the width and height of each button, that's the original properties, those four properties: width, height, location.x and location.y of each control. So for now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 controls. We're going to need to store 5 5 times 4, that's obviously 20 different items. Anyway, when we're storing, I'll show you how we're going to store in such a way we don't have to store 20. We're probably going to wrap them up in a class called rectangle. You see, a rectangle object has location.x, location.y, and it has width and it has height. So for this, we're just going to keep one rectangle that will hold the location.x, location.y, width and height, another rectangle to hold this, another rectangle to hold this, another like that. So we're just going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rectangles. So let's right click and go to view code so we can start writing our code. So like I said, we need 4 things, and I said we're going to store them in the rectangle class. So we're going to make in a rectangle object. So we're going to make a rectangle object, which is a global variable, private rectangle, and we'll call that button 1, or let's start with the text box. Text box 1 original, let's say original measurements. Yeah, let's call it measurements, or we could just call it original rect, just to make things short. So we're going to do the same thing for the other 4 buttons. Private rectangle, button 1 original rect, and then we're going to have button 2 original rect. Notice where I'm writing this code. I'm writing it inside public partial class, inside the class. So they become a kind of global variables for the class, or let's say they become a field. You understand? A private fields for the class. It means that you can use them anywhere within this Form 1 class. Within this Form 1 class. So we're going to go ahead and have a few more. So we have button 1 original rect, button 2 original rect, button 3 original rect, and button 4 original rect. Now, like I said, these things, we're just going to use them to store the original measurements of those items that we created on the form. So how are we going to do that? Now notice, you're going to you can only store those positions after the controls have been created. So we're going to do it after initialize component, because initialize component is called in order to create the window and also draw all the buttons that need to be drawn. We can do it immediately after initialize component, or in fact even more precise is to put it inside the form 1 load event handler. So let's go back to our form 1. Let's double click on the form, that's any free space, just double click on it. You see it creates the private void form1 load event handler. So we can write, we can start storing the positions here.